Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. Happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. Congratulations, everybody. We're one day closer to the weekend. Gorgeous weather today. I mean, really, really beautiful today. Really beautiful yesterday over here where I am in New England. So it's really, really nice that we finally seem to be getting into the nicer weather now after what seemed to have been a very, very long winter this year, at least from my standpoint. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but definitely good to be, see people outside and just have gorgeous weather. So I hope everyone's having a great week so far. I'm really excited to bring you all another episode. We're about a month into the baseball season now. Definitely some stuff to talk about at this point. Some more frustrating topics than others, but we will dive a lot into that on this episode. So I definitely wanted to introduce you all to my guest that I have with me this evening. Very, very talented, definitely super knowledgeable about baseball. I highly recommend all of you checking out his content. Hosts a podcast on Audacy Sports, Inside the Monster Red Sox podcast. Joey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for the very kind intro.
You're welcome. I try, definitely, for sure. I definitely do mean that, though. You are super knowledgeable about baseball and the Red Sox. So I enjoy your content and following what you're doing. So keep that up.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you joining me. Definitely a lot to talk about here. But before we kind of dive into all of that, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you really got involved in working in sports and, just the podcast?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll try to keep this brief. The way I got here is not the traditional route per se. So I'll try not to get too caught up in the details here. I was born in a small fishing town in northern New Hampshire. No, I
That is
I went to
nothing is so
college.
engaged in that, though.
Yeah, I went to college for film production. And after I got out of school, I kind of worked in the film industry for a little bit, working on some independent stuff in the greater Boston area, and making online content, YouTube stuff, social media stuff, and then got involved with minor league baseball. Did some camera work for them, highlight work, all that kind of stuff. And I started a family, so I wanted to get a little more stability, maybe not work like paycheck to paycheck in like I hope I get another gig next month kind of capacity.
Yeah.
So I searched out content creation stuff, and I figured I would be in a place where I was like making, an Instagram for a hair salon or something, just like doing something,
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon this golden opportunity at this place called Lumberland, they were just starting a social media presence. They were looking to make an in-house social media team, and they were a baseball novelty product company. And so I went there, and we built a following of a little over 2 million TikTok followers in about a year and a half. Steve Perrault at the time of Bleacher Report and Section 10 podcast, reached out and was like, hey, we should collab. Like, I love your guys' stuff. And I was like a huge listener of his content. And I was like, dude, absolutely, let's do stuff. So me and Steve collabed on a couple of things. And then I got wind that he was leaving, and he was looking for a co-host. So I threw my hat in the ring. And about 2 months later, after like radio silence and assuming that he had chosen somebody else, I heard from him, and he was like, I think you probably got it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was wild.
That's probably so out of the blue for you too, because you probably at that point had just not expected it, because you were like, oh, he probably went with somebody else at that point.
100%. I actually reached out to him. I texted him and I was like, hey man, how you been? Hope you had a good Christmas. Quick little question. Did you ever find your co-host? And he's like, give me a minute, I'll call you. And then when he called, he was so blasé. He was like, oh yeah, it's going to be you. Did I not tell you that? Like, no, I think I would have remembered that, man.
That's a pretty important little detail he left out.
Yeah. And now we're about 12 episodes in. We're associated with the team. So we get like access from the club. We got, get on field stuff, get interviews with the players. I mean, it's awesome. It's a ton of fun. I mean, it could be more fun this season given the the way things have started, but the podcast itself is wicked fun to do.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, podcasting is awesome. It's definitely a great way to interact with a lot of different types of people and just get different insight on different things and all of that. So that's definitely been a good experience for me too, and just the amount of people I've been able to talk to. And speaking of Steve, everybody that is listening out there, not everybody might remember this, but Steve actually was on my podcast as a guest about a year or so ago, maybe even longer than that now. And so it was he was a great guest. We did a lot of good Red Sox talk, and he was definitely great. So shout out to him as well.
Yeah, dude can talk, huh? Dude
Yeah,
talks.
he really is
Awesome.
definitely a talker. He's definitely a
He's in the
talker.
right field. That is
Yeah.
100% where he
Exactly.
should be
Yeah.
doing.
In order to be in this type of field, you have to be able to talk. And if you can't, then it's just not going to go well for you. So he's in the perfect industry for him, I feel like.
Yeah, him and I complement each other well there, I think, because there are certainly times where he'll kind of toss it to me, and I'm like, "Oh, dude, I'm just listening. I'm just just listening, just absorbing, being a sponge here." It's like, right, I gotta say some stuff back. But
And to be
he's a
involved.
wicked smart dude. Yeah, he's very knowledgeable, and obviously I kind of owe him a huge thanks that I'm in this position. But yeah, um we're over with Audacy Sports now. 2400 Sports is like our subdivision there, but all good people over there. It's all a well-run ship, if you will.
That's great.
Mhm.
That's really good. And also just being able to do something that you're passionate about on a regular basis. Nobody can really ask for anything better than that. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, I this is gonna sound. I don't know if this is gonna sound good, but I'm gonna say it because it's what's on my mind. I think back now to like the jobs I had before I was doing this, right? Like my prior job was also like baseball content creation. So
Mhm.
it's, the same thing on a different scale. But like my jobs before that, and I'm like, man, I don't think I could do that anymore. I think like now that I have a taste of like doing something that I love, I don't think I could go back to like clocking in, clocking out. Um, and
Yeah.
God bless you if you can, because it's tough, you know.
Yeah.
It's tough to find drive to I don't know, follow your dreams. Is what I'm saying here.
Take notes, everybody. That's the takeaway we can take away from this episode is follow your dreams. And when you reach those dreams, like don't look back.
Yeah, no, keep looking forward.
I like that message. That's a good message to start people off with here. But you said it. You said it already before. Could be more fun. This season has not been the most fun for the Red Sox so far. Definitely a little bit unexpected seeing kind of where they were at the end of the season last year. I think, especially from an offensive standpoint, I really thought that they would start off the season stronger than they did. And so we look back at the last month, obviously are coming off of a good win last night over the, defending World Series champions, which so that's no, just a weak win. That's a legitimate win against a good team. So that was nice. And that's the type of win that you need to build off of and hope that they can kind of this turnaround can start now, and that the first month of the season was maybe their bad part of the season and that they start to turn things around now. Although I'm not really sure. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on all of this, kind of primarily. Yeah, what are your thoughts in general on how the first month of the season has been? Because for me, it's just been nothing but just constant frustration and letdown.
Yeah, it's beginning to creep into sadness territory. I
Yeah.
think it's starting to kind of surpass exhaustion. I think there's obviously like the 7 stages of grief, or 12, however many there are.
Yeah.
There's stages of grief. There's like also stages of having a bad baseball season. I think it's a similar route. It's like anger, exhaustion, and then like desperation, and then sadness.
Yeah.
And then I guess acceptance down the line. That's not really me. I'm not really an acceptance guy, but it started to creep into sadness territory a little recently. Last night was great. I was riding a high last night. We did a little bonus episode, and it was fun. But I'll tell you, I woke up this morning and I wasn't thinking about the fact that the Sox beat the Braves. I woke up thinking about the fact that they're 10 and or 11 and 19.
And last
You
in the
know,
division.
yeah, that too. So it's great and all. I would like to see them string stuff together because they're allergic to losing. They haven't won 2 games back to back since I think it's April 19th. So almost a full month now. They haven't won back to back games.
Which is so bad.
They hate getting back to back hits. They don't get runs in back to back innings. Any kind of momentum, any kind of back to back anything, this team is just allergic to. So I guess just enjoy the wins when they come along. But I don't know if I'm quite ready to say one good game means that the team is back or that any one guy is back too. Because I think there's been a couple of times this year where one guy has a 2-hit game, a 3-hit game. And you're like, oh, okay, his bat is on now. And then the next day, I don't know, he goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. And it's like, oh, wow, what that's how cool is that? That's great.
So much for that person being back.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you for sure. Obviously, last night's win was really good. I was watching that Devers Grand Slam on repeat like pretty much all day today, just because I was so pumped when that happened, because I was like, wow, situational hitting. What is this? Scoring with runners in scoring position. This is new. This is something we haven't seen all season yet. And that's been one of the biggest challenges for sure, I'd say, that we're not getting out of this offense overall, is just the stranding base runners and just not scoring people that are in scoring position. And that's been one of the biggest challenges. And what I will point out about a lot of these games so far that is even more bothersome is it's not like the majority of these games are blowouts. They're playing close games against good teams. They're just not able to, in certain situations, be able to come through when they need to come through. And a lot of times I'll look back at that game and I'll say, wow, they could have won this game had they scored so-and-so in this position. And I just find myself saying that way too frequently. If that's something that they can start to kind of shape up as the season goes on, in terms of just relying on more people to come up and get that big hit, or just find a way to score people that are in scoring position, that to me is one of the biggest concerns, I feel like, as of right now. And that's something that obviously last year's Red Sox team did not struggle with nearly as much. You could pretty much count on a lot of guys in that lineup to come up and be the guy who can drive in some of those runners.
Yeah, so everybody kind of keeps bringing up this stat line in one way or another. And it's that there's 3 players for the Boston Red Sox right now. It's Xander, Raffy, and JD, and then
which was kind of to be expected, or to an extent that those would be the top 3, in the lineup.
Yeah, I think you wanted Story to be in that mix. I would honestly probably have bet on him being in that trio rather than JD. Just age, I guess, if you have to, but there's a bunch of guys that you expected way more out of. But I don't know what the answer to that is. You got to think it's shuffling around those 3 guys. They did change things up last night in the first game of this Atlanta series, putting Bogey behind JD, which felt great, because there's been this feeling all year after JD's at bat, which is usually a single or double. It's usually standing on base, and then you just wait for the inning to end.
Yep.
It's like, okay, JD's on, and then, man, once we get to the top of the order, it's going to be fun for a minute again. But until then, nothing. So you got to think that it's going through Alex Cora's head to move those guys around a little bit and hopefully drive in some more guys. But there's also a problem with this team in comparison to a couple of years ago with 2 outs. I mean, this team just doesn't score. There's 2 out innings. The third one is free. Nobody wants to hit. I think it's
so true.
It's a demoralizing thing, I think, or it comes from a place of being demoralized, I should say.
Yeah.
It's like you have a couple tough innings. The first 2 guys go down on 4 pitches combined. And yeah, you're already down, or you've blown a lead. There's 2 outs. How do you have a competitive at bat? I don't know. It's a mental game, and it's tough not to think that it's getting to these guys a little bit,
Yeah, definitely. And obviously baseball is so tough from a mental standpoint, like you said. But yeah, I mean, in general, I do like that's a really good point about Cora switching up the lineup because I think that was definitely necessary. I'm not sold on the idea of Story hitting leadoff. I think that that's definitely something that I liked to not see happening. Last night, I think it'd be more beneficial to kind of move him around a little bit and see where else he fits in. I just don't really think that as of right now, based on what we've seen from him so far, that the leadoff spot, which he's been hitting in for the majority of the season so far, is best for him at this time.
Yeah, I don't know what's best for him right now. So
Nobody
he
does
was
because
in
he
the
hasn't been hitting well in general.
yeah. No, I mean, so he's in the 6 hole tonight.
Yeah,
He did get 2 hits last night out of there. Nobody is talking about, just to name names here a little bit, is another leadoff guy is Kike. Kike's kind of gotten a pass for whatever reason. A lot of Red Sox fans' frustration has been aimed at 2 guys. It's Story and Bobby. And I think it's because they had the highest maybe not expectations, but just hope. People really wanted them to succeed. Bobby is a crowd favorite, and Story is this flashy new toy that's coming to town who's, a hot shot, gets a big contract. He's a star, he's a superstar. So of course you're rooting for him. But Kike was kind of this he was a playoff hero last year. Maybe gets a little bit of a longer leash. People kind of are focused on Bob and Trevor, but Kike's been insanely quiet. I
yeah,
know he's batting below 200. I think he might be in the 160 range. He's a guy who you really need to get going because I mean when he's leading off too, you hate to talk about a guy as a built-in out, but it kind of feels like it when he's starting off an inning and you're just like, okay, let's just get to the 2 slot. Let's just get to Raffy.
which is
Let's just
bad.
get
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Yeah, I mean, I actually said something similar to that in my baseball group chat that I'm in last night with some of my friends. And I said, yeah, nobody's really talking a lot about it, but Kike has not done much at all. The guy just has not been hitting at all. And it's really frustrating to see somebody who did as well as he did in the postseason last year to going to what he's doing now. And I feel like that's been really detrimental to this lineup because everyone's like, oh yeah, they can't hit in the bottom of the order. It's like, sure, but what about Kike, who hits at the top of the order, is
Yeah.
also not stepping up in the way that he contributed last year. So that I think is definitely making a difference as well.
I think that's part of it because everybody talks about the 2-3-4, right? And then they say, and the bottom of the
And
lineup,
there's
this.
everybody else.
Meanwhile, Kike's on an island behind them, just like wide-eyed, like, oh man, like maybe if I stand very still, they won't notice that I'm
I'll just
here.
float into the background.
Yeah, just doing the Homer Simpson gif fading back into the bushes.
That's
But
fantastic.
nobody has picked up on. I don't know. I mean, you hate to get on a guy, especially a guy who gave you so much in the postseason and is such a clubhouse guy. Everybody loves Kike. Kike's fun. He's loud. He's boisterous. He's whatever. And the guys really rally around him. So I mean, I'm sure that's part of it too. It's hard to be smiling and laughing if you are JD, Devers, and Bogey when everybody else around you is struggling. How do you get the vibes up, you know, to your teammate who's batting 160? I don't know if I really want to have my spirits lifted if those are my numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand what you're saying. I mean, that's why in general you look at the lineup now and it's like this is an offense that should be performing a lot better than they are, and that's the part of the reason why I feel optimistic about them being able to start to play better because it's just odd the way that they've been hitting. Alice Corey even said something similar to that too. He said, I know that this offense is more talented than they're showing right now. I mean, Trevor Story obviously so far has been disappointing, especially considering the contract that they gave him. I'm not ready at all yet. Some people are to say that contract is a bust and that he's just not going to work out here. But there's some transitions for him. I mean, he's transitioning from the National League to the American League for one. Fenway is such a different environment for him, and also the fact that he's primarily playing a different position than he's used
Yeah.
to. So with all of that stuff being in consideration, I mean, I want to give the guy some more time to be able to adapt. And I think once he does that, that could be a huge difference in terms of how the offense is performing if we can really get somebody like him going in, the middle of the order. Because I feel like being in the middle or lower half of the order, if he gets going, would probably make sense in terms of where he should be placed just to get more production kind of, after you get past the Devers, Bogarts, JD part of the order. You need somebody to kind of pick things up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Boston is known for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right? Beans, Italian food in the North End,
which is fantastic.
It's great. It's
everybody
lovely.
who hasn't been,
you got to go.
Yeah.
Crime movies, but they're not known for, the city as a whole, is being terribly understanding.
Oh, yeah. They're actually the opposite.
Yeah, not really the vibe.
Not a whole lot
here.
of forgiveness here.
Like, yeah, you don't really hear like, oh my gosh, that is so on me. I'm so sorry. You don't really hear that here. It's a town that I was surprised gave as long of a leash as they did to Trevor. It was like, look, like everybody kind of did understand. He's moving somewhere that's very different. He just had a baby. Yeah. Well, his wife did. He didn't give birth before the season started. His hips are still recovering.
It was pretty intense. It was pretty intense. A pretty intense surgery that happened.
Yeah, tough spring. There's a lot of change, new position, like you said, all the things you mentioned. But I thought it was going to be a good thing that Trevor didn't have to come here and be the guy. He's not Correa going to the Twins, where if that team is going to compete,
that was crazy, by the way,
which is insane. It's absolutely ludicrous. He's there for exactly 1 year, but that's a whole other conversation. But Story didn't have that pressure. It wasn't like, come here, be the guy, hit 300. We need 35 bombs out of you. This whole city's counting on you, man. It was like, hey, come here. We got a bunch of got a handful of superstars. We'd like you to be a part of it. We think we got a shot in competing. It's a tough division, man, but we want you here. Let's win something. Which I thought, that's going to be great. Maybe that's not what he needed. I don't know. Is it too soon to say that? Maybe that's a little speculatory, but I have been impressed with the Boston people for how forgiving they've been up to this point. Them booing him recently, he said, is a brand new experience for him. I don't know how he's going to react to that. I don't know how he's going to react to the media starting to get on him and say, what the hell, where is this guy with $140 million for what? Down the toilet. Like, that's going to start to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I've already seen a little bit of it now.
Yeah. It's starting. So it's in his court, I guess, how he responds to it. I don't even know if he knows how he's going to respond. He's never had to deal with it. He said that was the first time he got booed by the home crowd.
Yeah. I didn't like that.
Nuts. It's wild. I heard some people yelling some stuff at Fenway. He had
4 strikeouts that game, so that obviously was not a good game for him. But it's like, come on, people, like, this guy just got here. It's not like he's a year into his contract and is still hitting like this. Like, we need to just tone that down a bit. I did not like the booing at that point at all.
It was May 5th. It was May 5th of a season that started late. So, like, take it easy. Like, this guy was next to the dugout and was yelling, like, I'll drive you to the airport myself, Trevor. Get out of here. Are you serious? Yeah. That's word for word what I heard. And I was so like, mean. You got to be kidding. Like, Trevor, like, he certainly heard this guy yell that at him.
And there's no way he didn't, probably, if he was that close.
Yeah, he absolutely totally heard him. And it's like, you can't imagine what these guys go through, period. But in a situation like that, it's impossible to try to put yourself in their shoes. I think I can say to a certain extent, maybe like to 95% accuracy, that everybody in the city, in the region, is rooting for him. Everyone wants him to do well. Very few people, those 5%, the I'll drive you to the airport guy, they are out there. But most people are saying, man, like, excited for when you get going. Let's do this, Trevor. Nobody's trying to chase him out of town just yet. We all want the same thing from him. And I think if I had to guess, if I was a betting man, I'd say a year from now we'll all be like, man, can you remember when Trevor Story had that slow start and
I
how he
keep,
turned it around?
yep, yep. And that's what I keep preaching with people too is, this guy is going to turn around at some point. I think we just need to be patient with him, and people are going to look back and forget that this whole first month of his first season here even happened, because he's going to be starting to perform the way that people are expecting him to perform and the way that's going to live up to his contract that they gave him. I mean, I'm pretty confident that that is going to happen at some point. I just really think right now is such an adjustment period for him.
It is. It's a life adjustment period too. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Colorado and Boston are different places. Like we said, the family stuff. It's all different. And I mean, next year, not to be a bummer here, Gabby, but I'm kind of gonna be in the next year, and maybe even more so after 2 years. He might find himself being the face of the franchise.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah.
how is that going to affect them? I mean, who knows? Who knows? But that's a very real possibility that your ticket stubs and your, RedSox.com banner is Trevor Story front and center,
Yeah, I mean, the Bogart situation is obviously unknown as of right now, too. Even Devers, I mean, who knows if they're going to be able to come to an agreement with him, which, by the way, I'm going to be very, very frustrated if they miss the ball on that one and they don't work something out in this upcoming offseason, which somehow I think they will, because, he said, I don't want to talk about it during the season. I don't want to try to work out anything during the season, which is fine. But I do think when they're kind of with their backs against the wall, when it gets to that point, that they do eventually work something out with him, because and I think a lot of it's going to have to do with the season he puts together this year too. And that's somebody who is going to be a good talent for a long time, as long as he stays healthy. So that's somebody that is really worth giving that extension to.
Yes, both of them. And I'm sad. I'm so sad that this conversation is even happening.
I know. Well, yeah, with
It's tough to
Bogarts,
even swallow.
Bogarts definitely is an interesting one. I mean, Devers is so
Yeah.
young still, so it'd be such a
Mhm.
mistake, I feel like, to let him just to not be able to work something out with him and let him walk. With Bogarts, I mean, his leadership presence and his experience in Boston, and obviously the way he's playing and just how key to the offense he is, and even defensively. I mean, that would be so disappointing to have neither of those two on the Red Sox roster, like, come even next season.
Yeah. So I've been sitting on this take for a little bit, but I'm gonna drop it here. I've been sitting on it because I think it's too sad, but I'm gonna say it because we're getting into it. We try to avoid this kind of talk on Inside the Monster just because the season's already so depressing. But we're in it. Let's
Might bring more
do it.
sadness onto sadness as it is.
Yeah, this is a little bit of therapy. Sometimes you gotta crawl through the mud to get to the other side, or I don't know. There's an idiom there, I'm sure. As much as you want your guys to do well, obviously, right? That's like the point of rooting for a team. You want your guys to do well. You want your team to do well, right? One of those is happening. The other is team's not doing well. Some of your guys are doing well. Kind of the guys that you like the most if you're the average fan, right? Bogey and Devers. That's great. I love that they're doing great. Except those are the worst guys logistically to be doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are this team has kind of shown they're not really looking to spend $300 million. They're not looking to shell out crazy money. So when Bogey comes into a year where he is going to opt out and is going to need a new contract, for him to come out of the gate hitting 400 is not great. And it's hard to celebrate it and be like, look how great Bogey is, when the only thing that's happening in front of me is the Red Sox losing games and Bogey driving up his price tag. It's so
true. It's so true. And that's the whole thing about the Red Sox right now. That Story contract, like you said, was kind of the biggest thing they've done in a while, at least since Bloom's been here. Mm-hmm. I'd even say, but I don't know that they're going to want to spend that kind of money on him, especially if the season continues how it's going right now. And obviously, they've done a good job of building up the farm system. They have some good prospects who could come up in the next couple of years, which I think is all very exciting. But if you look at a player like Xander Bogaerts and how the team is playing right now, is that somebody that you think is going to be really worth it from their standpoint investing in down the road? if the team this season is just not really a team that's actually going to contend, which is obviously, again, it's early. We know this, but there's already even been talks. Then you bring up Bogarts about the trade deadline this year, which,
I don't know.
On that whole topic there. I mean, I think there's pretty much a 0% chance he gets moved at the trade deadline this year. I don't really realistically see that being an actual legitimate option. I think when it comes to the trade deadline, yes, maybe some people will be moved if the season continues to go the way that it's going. I just don't see that being him. But I am more concerned about the end of this year and what happens at the end of this, if they think that he's somebody worth investing in, or do they just want to focus more on the future that they have built now in the farm system, and when it comes to these prospects that they're going to have coming up, and hoping that they don't have to spend that kind of money on somebody like that.
Yeah, I would say
it's a hard conversation to have. It really is.
Give me a second. It's gonna be hard if Bogey leaves to look back and not say, well, obviously, because the Sox brought in a GM who traditionally doesn't spend. That was kind of like, that's the MO, right?
Yeah.
And then they go out and spend on another shortstop. And then I feel like he's like Bogey's, if I can see a future where Bogey leaves and we all go, how could this happen? And it's like, bro, what do you mean? How could this happen? Like, it's right there. It's right there. I'm trying to look at it and see the writing on the wall and try to accept that it's a pretty severe possibility. It just is that Story is probably here because they don't think Bogey's coming back.
That's
that probably is it.
Yep.
And you have Christian Arroyo, who is as a utility infielder playing second. You have Kike, who's got a fair amount of time at second. And if you want to keep Story at second, you have your number one prospect is a shortstop.
Yep.
So do you spend a ton on your infield? I don't know. Does Wilhelm bloom? I don't know. But it's hard not to at least start to be prepared a little bit if you're a Sox fan, that is a very real possibility.
Yeah.
And I would say a larger chance that Xander goes than Devers. I would say if I had to bet on which one is going to be here longer, it would probably be Devers.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But, I agree with that too. I think Devers is more likely to stay here if they're going to keep one over the other. But that's definitely a really good point too that I brought up when they originally even got Story, was because I was like, I just feel like they're just anticipating that he's going to have to move back to shortstop because Bogarts probably is not going to be here that much longer, and they can make it work. Like you said, they have other guys who can play second, which, obviously, is Arroyo the best second baseman out there? No,
yes.
But you could. Yeah, no, but you can
love
make it
Christian
with him. I love him too. Yeah. But you can make that work. And then when it comes to, this also goes back to Bobby Dahlbeck in a sense, though, in the season he's having, because we really needed this to be a season where he could prove that he could be that guy at first base. Because again, if he doesn't start to turn things around, then you're looking at kind of another hole in the infield where you probably need like a stronger first baseman there too. And so that's why I think a lot of people are disappointed in the season Bobby is having as well, because all of this is going to have a trickle effect if Bogarts does leave as to who plays where. And then you're looking at, okay, maybe Arroyo becomes kind of the everyday second baseman. Maybe if you move Story to shortstop, then obviously Devers, assuming he stays. And then you have Bobby at first base still. But if Bobby's not showing improvement, you just wait. And then he's kind of a placeholder type thing, or then what do you do? Because then obviously you have Casas who would come up at some point, but this is all, it's all a question mark right now. Like after this season, I feel like that infield could look so much different.
Yeah, it's tough to think about a little bit, when you start to see like, well, what's the 2024 Red Sox going to look like? Is it going to be recognizable to this team? So this is the second day in a row, and it makes for the entire series. It's a 2-game series, granted, but throughout this entire series, Franchy Cordero has gotten the starting spot at first over Bob.
Yep.
That's gotta be a wake-up call. That's, if you're Bobby, I mean, just like telling it like it is, that sucks. Like that should hurt, you know? If you're Bob, that's gotta shake you awake a little bit and be like, dude, you're losing your starting spot and you're losing it to Franchi, a guy who had a shot and lost it, and now they're giving him another one over you. That sucks, man. Like you got to do something here, and it's offensively and defensively. Nobody is a bigger Bob guy than me. Nobody. I will absolutely, go toe to toe with any Bob fans out there. I have a Bob jersey. I'm not a jersey guy. I bought an authentic Bob jersey last
Oh wow,
year.
so this is for real then.
I love Bob. Yes, we haven't interviewed Bob. I don't have a plan to interview Bob, and I have every interview question written for him. I had to have it ready and waiting in my notes app. I'm legitimately like I'm the biggest fan of this dude. And it's now at a place where it's like, dude, what's happening? Like, what's happening? Like, figure it out. Like, is something going on? Like, I don't know, because you got a long leash too, be it with the team, with the fans, with with Cora. Like, it's nearing its end. you got to stay at it. That all being said, just to touch on the Cassis thing, I really hope they don't call him up tomorrow.
I don't want to rush him. Yeah, I definitely don't want to
No.
do that either. Yeah.
It's the wrong reason. You want a guy to come up because he's ready and you have a slot where you think he can contribute, not because things are bad and you need someone to come along and spark it, or you're desperate.
Try to save the day type thing.
Yeah. You don't want this dude to come in and like have that weight on his shoulder. You want him to just come in and be a 6'10" moose and hit bombs and, not have any added pressure beyond that,
Yeah. He needs to be ready. I feel like, because that's a really special talent that they do have in this kid. And this is somebody who can be a huge contribution to this team for a long time. So you don't want to make that mistake of like rushing him up. And then, what if he gets injured and something happens and then he kind of falls off course a little bit in that trajectory? It's like, yeah, I mean, if the team is struggling, that's one thing. And obviously that sucks, but like, you don't want to be like in desperation mode, because that just looks bad for the team too. Like, they're that desperate that they're going to rush this kid up who has so much potential and can come up later. That just looks bad on the team, I feel like, to do something like that as well.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, from a logical standpoint too, as far as like, you want to talk service time, like that just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
Like to waste a year of service time on what looks like a tough year just to be, way too early to talk about it. I understand, but like, do you want to do that? And then, like you said, that pressure and that weight, and there's so many holes with the theory. I don't see him coming up until maybe the end of the year. I could see him, getting some reps in September. And it depends what this team looks like in September. Who knows? But I certainly don't think he's the answer, and I wouldn't expect it. If you're a fan who's wondering if you're going to see Cassis anytime soon, I would imagine that the team feels a similar way to you and I, Gabby. I don't see him coming up anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it'd be logical not to. And the fans who are like, let's just bring him up now, I'm like, no, that's not the answer here. We can't just do that and look that desperate that we're going to bring this kid up just because they feel like there's no other option. Like we're in the situation we're in. Like, this is what it is. This is what we have to deal with. And when he is ready, they can call him up. And like you said, that would be kind of cool if, based on the situation they're in at the end of the season, if we can see him get some reps at the end of this year, just to kind of see how that goes for him. I think that would excite everybody, but mid-May is not the time to do that.
No, especially not when you got Franchi Cordero lighting it up. Franchi Cordero is your best 2-out hitter.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, who would have thought that though? Who would have expected that? Because obviously his production was super low when he was the first time when they gave him that chance, and then they said that obviously that he got sent down and all of that, and then now he's back up, and it's almost like some light turned on for him because he's actually contributing in a lot of situations that other people aren't.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. It's a bizarro world year where, aside from the big three, aside from maybe Garrett Whitlock and Evaldi, everything is upside down, inside out, backwards. Like nothing.
Waka's
makes
been
sense.
good, actually, though.
Waka's been great, which I would argue is Bizarro World because were we expecting that? Yeah,
I mean, that.
I
That's
mean,
been key, though, to the starting pitching, though. That to me has been huge for the rotation because going into this season, the rotation was a question mark, obviously, with Paxton being injured, Chris Sale, when we found out he was going to be injured. Who knows what the deal is going to be with those guys when they do come back, even if they are, how much they're really able to contribute. Waka coming in here, we didn't know how he was going to be. And then there's Rich Hill, obviously another question mark too. Yeah. So the start that Waka's had, if he can sustain that or close to it, that's going to be a huge value to have in that rotation. That's going to be somebody who you can look back on and say, wow, good for Heim for snagging somebody like that, who's so far doing really well here and has been a really, really reliable part of the starting rotation. But I'm not trying to jinx him or anything like that, but I've been very impressed with his stuff in this first month of the season.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome. I mean, if you were to day one, opening day, you're given the rotation, right? Like you're handed a list that says Nathan Eovaldi, Nick Pivetta, Tanner Houck, Rich Hill, Michael Waka. That's probably the order that you would put them in. Right? Or maybe Hill, Waka.
That is exactly what it was before opening day.
Yeah. So and that's, an accurate tier list. That is almost completely upside down, aside from Eovaldi. And then in Whitlock, obviously, being in the rotation now, which is also a shock.
What do you think about that? Because that, obviously, I feel like when they had, Whitlock, the intention with him originally, we know, was to eventually make him a starter. This early on, I don't think was the plan, but they were kind of in, they felt desperate. They felt like they needed him to come out of the rotation instead of out of the bullpen. But now it's looking like he might be more valuable in the bullpen, not because he doesn't pitch well out of the rotation, but more so because of the bullpen kind of needing the support more with him, with him pitching out of the pen. So that's another person that I wanted to bring up here because I wanted to hear your thoughts on him having been starting as of late.
I don't like it. I think he's of so much more value to you when you can see him 2, maybe even 3 times a week, and kind of spread those innings out, especially, when you find yourself in a situation where your starter is out after 2 2/3 and you need a long reliever. I love knowing Whitlock's coming in. We're safe. It's okay. He'll clean it up. I also don't love the fact, if you just look at numbers, right? If you just look at the way things have gone, he had 3 amazing starts, loss. And then he had 1 tough start, and it's the 1 win. It makes no sense. Nothing makes sense. It's a bizarre world inside out. Everything is upside down. I think we're in the upside down. So it's almost like even when he does great, are we taking advantage of it? No. It's almost like using him situationally in the middle of a game where you can see, okay, we do have a lead we need to protect. Then it feels like a situation where Whitlock is the right choice. He's the only choice. And you can choose to put him in that moment.
One that you can come in and confidently say, you feel pretty good about him coming in.
Aside from Matty Strom, that's my boy.
Oh, he's been good. He's been good.
So, I mean, I think using him strategically and situationally, I think is smart. That's another reason I don't like him being the closer, because it's I
don't like that.
You want to be able to use him at different times, and you want to be able to say, oh, I know we used him yesterday for an inning, but let's put him in today for an inning. You want to be able to have the freedom to kind of use him strategically. I think out of the bullpen is the best way for that. He is such a great weapon, and I don't know. I think it's a little bit of necessity right now with how kind of throwing off the rotation there a little bit with the whole Toronto thing of needing to put him in. But now I wonder how long he'll stay in the rotation. I hope it's not a permanent thing. I love Whitlock.
Well, this is also going to be dependent on the injuries as well, too, because again, when you look at players like James Paxton, nobody knows where he's going to be at when he comes back, too. Is he going to be able to be a reliable part of the rotation, or is he going to have to start off with a short leash kind of. And then Chris Sale, obviously, there's been talks even about making Chris Sale the closer when he comes back, to bring him back kind of quicker and have him just be, because there is no real closer right now. But I can't. That's the Chris Sale thing is such an interesting subject, just because, you know, the guy obviously is having trouble staying healthy right now. We know we're probably not going to get really anywhere close to the Chris Sale we got pre Tommy John. We all should have accepted that by now. However, if he can come back and like be at least decent, I think that could contribute. But I have a hard time with feeling okay with him being the guy they have to go to in a closing situation. That's just not really what he's meant for and here for.
Yeah. And it's also like, do you want to put it on an older guy coming off another surgery?
Exactly. To close out games.
Yeah. It's a big ask, and it's not how he has spent the majority of his career. You know, he's the kind of guy who would say, yeah, I just want to help this team win. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. He'll do anything.
Yeah, he would do it. Him and Whitlock are both that guy. I describe them both as the guys who say everything that your dad wants an athlete to say. You know,
I like that.
They say all the like, "Hey, I'm just here to help the team." He's like, that's the kind of stuff I'll get like a text from my dad of like that headline, be like, "Hey, you see what he said? He's a gamer."
That's awesome.
They're like those guys. So I mean, you know, he would do it. But I would vote against that as well. I think that feels a little bit like pulling a rabbit out of a hat or something. That's not what I mean. But it feels like just reaching in anything. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't know. Let's
just try this.
Yeah, it's like you're ruffling through a bag and being like, a closer. We have Chris Sale. Does that work?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I definitely see what you mean.
It just feels like desperation a little bit, you know.
I mean, that is a problem though. The closing position, obviously, as we knew, which was going to be an issue, and obviously, like the Matt Barnes situation is disappointing because obviously for the whole first half of the season last year, he was working out as the closer. Now it's like, who do you really have that you reliably feel like can close out games? Because multiple people have done it. Yes, we've already talked about Strom, but is that somebody you would trust to close out games on a consistent basis? I don't know. Like there's just too many. Yeah, you're like, yeah, 100%. He's my guy. Yeah. Robles is another one they've tried in that spot. I don't trust him to close out games either because he has shown that he can't be in that spot. Brazier is just a disaster as well. So there's you know, like who is it going to be? Sawamura can't close games. So it's like, where are you? What do we do? There's not really an answer for that right now based on who they have. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was talk about Diekman for a minute. And then he had like 2 back-to-back scary outings. Yep. And everybody immediately jumped off that train, and I haven't heard a word about him being the closer since. They asked him, you know, it was like in the postgame, they asked him in the clubhouse, they were like, hey, like, what do you think about being the closer? He's like, I don't care. I'll do anything for this team. He said the dad quote. And everyone was like, whoa, did we find our closer? And then 2 outings later, everyone shut up and acted like he didn't exist anymore.
Nobody's talking about it at all.
Nope. Just radio silence. So, I mean, your options are Strom or get somebody else.
Well, get somebody else is an interesting thing, though. I almost wonder if they would look into some kind of early season trade to get another bullpen arm, which is honestly, the bullpen was something I was disappointed with in the off season. I don't think there was enough. The bullpen wasn't addressed enough. There wasn't enough emphasis on Chaim Bloom's part to fix the bullpen and really improve it. And I think we're seeing, he brought in a couple guys, which we've talked about, but overall, I think that there needed to be more focus on that bullpen than there actually was. And now we're seeing Alex Cora. I mean, people like to blame Alex Cora a lot for this, which sure, some of the decisions he makes on who he puts in when, you can argue could be questionable, but he doesn't have a lot of options. He has to work with what he has here. So there's only so much he can do on his part, you know? And I think that in itself is an issue.
Right. Yeah. And you got to wonder how much value the team, meaning like ownership, management, Chaim, it's Chaim. Yeah. How much value Chaim puts on a closer? You know, he's a very new age guy. You know, he looks at it's Moneyball 2 is what's going on, right? He's looking at these advanced statistics and whatever.
Out of this, to be honest.
So Moneyball 2, the Chaim Bloom story. Come on, I like that.
I know. Now we're really talking here.
Yeah. All of my people reach out. We'll work on a script.
We can produce it.
Yeah. But you have to wonder how much emphasis he puts on a closer, because it's kind of, by the new age standard, a little bit of an older ideology, even having a closer,
Yeah.
So does he look at that and scoff? And does he look at the idea of a trade and say, no, I'm not giving up my prospects? Because that's what you do, right? You wouldn't, get rid of somebody on the active roster or something. But to get rid of a prospect for a legitimate closer, I don't know if he would do that. And the thing is, if you were to do this move, it would have to be right now. You can't fall 15 games back, 20 games back, and then then it's just asinine. It's over.
That'd be ridiculous. That'd be ridiculous.
You have to do it right now. I mean, you're 10 and a half games back. Is that right? 11 games back. You're back. You're about a dozen games back. This is as late as you can be doing that. And do you see Heim doing that this week? I don't.
No, definitely not. No,
absolutely. I think you got to hop on the Strom train. I'm telling you.
I mean, he looks better than any of those other people that we've listed. Obviously, Whitlock being the exception, but we all know that Whitlock is just kind of a, really good, just solid weapon to have there. But overall, in general, when you look at these guys, they've all had at least one bad outing to the point where it's gotten people off of the train of where they feel like they can be confident in that person to close games. They've all had outings where it's been enough for us all to say, I can't confidently trust that person to close games. And that's the problem. That's the issue. They've all had their fair share of meltdowns here where we're watching them pitch and we're like, yeah, there's no way this guy can be trusted with a one run lead in the ninth, rather.
It almost stinks more that it's a little bit of everyone rather than
right? It's
one
all
guy.
Spread out.
Yeah, like in years past, you could say like, ugh, Clay Buchholz, get out of here. Or Drew Pomeranz, get out of here.
Oh my God.
Or I don't know.
Last year
a bunch of guys.
Yeah, last year it was like, like you could name specific people that you were like, this person needs to get out.
Yeah. I can't even remember their names. The lacrosse named guys. There was two of them that Tyler, whatever.
What's his name there? Tyler Thornburg when he was here.
Yeah, Tyler Thornburg too, and Carson, whatever. Yeah, they're always hand in hand.
Martin Perez. Granted, he wasn't out of the bullpen, but still, the point still stands with that one.
Yeah, there's not a guy that you can point at and say like, I hate this guy. Get him out of here. Why is he pitching? It's like all of them are like pretty good, and then have just like 2-3 outings this year in which they just like are underhanding the ball. Like it's like, what are you doing?
It's such an issue. Like that game, that extra innings game against the Angels really, really, really irks me. Like that's just an example of just how things have been going this year, because that game, as we all know, was well within reach in the ninth inning. Easily could have closed out that game. But again, another meltdown occurred. And then extra innings. I mean, even just that in general this year, they have been abysmal in extra innings. Terrible. They have not won a single game in extra innings this year. Yeah. And that is so bad. They already have more like extra inning losses this year than they had all of last season. That's so bad.
Is that a real stat?
I think I saw something like that. Yeah.
That's insane. That feels so wrong. That sticks. A lot of the stats this year feel that way, where it's like, that can't be right. Like, but they are,
It's not surprising though, because they just are losing.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like it. It feels like it, but it also, I don't know. It shouldn't be the case. It just absolutely shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, I know. And also obviously those division matchups, they're going to have to start winning against the other teams in the division, because this is becoming an issue, because if they want any chance of kind of crawling their way back in to the division and try to respectably finish with the other teams in this division and even give themselves a chance to get a playoff spot, which granted they're in a really tough division as we know, obviously, but there's no reason to be behind the Orioles. Like that's something that's got to change in the next week, I'd say. And then try to crawl your way back in as other teams are hopefully starting to lose games. But that's something that they need to seriously focus on when they start to play the division again more, is winning some of those matchups, or else they have no chance of like coming close to competing with the Blue Jays, Rays, or Yankees.
Yeah, I actually I flipped on the Blue Jays Yankees game earlier today.
Uh-huh.
And it hit me after a couple innings. I was like, I don't know what I want to happen here. I don't think
what's the scenario here for us?
Like, I think this is just bad. It's just bad. It's bad that either of these teams win. It's honestly bad if either of them lose too. It's just, you don't want anything to happen anywhere. It's almost like you could just like, you wish you could pause the rest of the division. Be like, give us a minute. We'll be right there. We're supposed to be hanging out with you guys up at the top there. So give us a minute. We got to figure some stuff out here. Kike has been using a pool noodle as a bat. We have to change that. Bob has his eyes closed. So like once we sort out all this, we'll be right there. But that's not the case. They're going to keep playing baseball.
Yeah.
So you have to just speed up and get there. You have to make up for a lot of lost time. Does that happen? Now that Alex Cora doesn't have a beard, I'd like to say yeah.
But that's what I said yesterday. Yeah, that's what I said yesterday before the game. I was like, it's official now. Alex Cora shaved the beard, so now this here is when the turnaround starts. So maybe they'll start to play better now. Like I'm such a superstitious person too when it comes to that. If they actually start playing better from here and they start winning more games, I'm genuinely going to feel like it was because of the beard. I really am.
I mean, 2013, obviously the year of the beard. Maybe 22 is clean shaven. Maybe we all go clean shaven. The whole team goes clean shaven. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? That's kind of the Yankees thing, all right? As I'm saying,
yeah, I was going to say that's kind of
never
like
mind.
Like we're copying the Yankees, but nobody wants to do that.
No, never mind. Forget my idea. It's just Alex Cora. But who knows? I mean, it could be any of those things. It definitely does take a lot for him to do that, for him to shave his beard. We had him on Inside the Monster, and he told us exactly why he has the beard. And it's because I think it's his girlfriend. I don't think he's married. I think it's his girlfriend saw a picture of him with a beard. He was like on vacation, sent her a picture with the beard, and she replied, "Hot." And he was like, keeping it.
That's
keeping
amazing.
it. So for him to turn his back and be like, sorry, honey, I'm shaving it. That's a lot. That takes a lot. So
wow, that's a big step.
That's commitment. That's my manager.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough to go against a significant other like that and do something like that. I mean, but again, anything for the team, really, so that they can start winning games.
That's my manager. That's a good leader right there, to be willing to put his personal life on the line. It's gonna take more than that. I am not a superstitious person.
Of course it is, but
I am very much not a superstitious. I'm not like I don't know, like I'll text people that are like a perfect game's going on or whatever. I just don't believe in any of this superstitions. Yeah, I don't care about any of it.
Oh my gosh,
and
that's crazy.
Like
You can't do that.
Even like, I don't know, I've been with people at games where like I'll go to get a pretzel or something, and they're like, "Oh no, you have to stand right here. There's a hitting streak going on, and if you move your feet, it's gonna stop."
It's gonna be broken.
It's like doing a rain dance or something. It's like, what are we doing? Like I'm gonna change the world by I don't know. It's just not. It's
yes,
just not
you individually are gonna change it.
I think there legitimately is something to be said about it being Alex Cora doing it. You know, that he's saying to the guys, "Look, we need to change."
Here's where this starts. I'm shaving my beard for all of you, so let's do this.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm giving myself some more hope as we're talking here. I like this. See? Maybe this is the turnaround we needed.
See, maybe us here, maybe we'll look back on this exact conversation in September when they're playing better and be like, wow, we really saw that coming. Like we called that after he shaved the beard, and we said on the show that maybe this really is when the turnaround starts, and we can look back at this exact conversation. How cool would that be?
We'll look back and be like, we saved the Red Sox season.
Yeah.
I can't believe we did it.
Yeah, you and I together did it. Like it wasn't anybody else. There wasn't anything that they did to start playing better. It was you and I spoken into existence, and then it happened.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's what we're doing right now.
So we should be paid by the team to be the official, like, just season changing people who just speak things into existence if they're struggling, and it just changes.
Like a guru. Dude, there's definitely been instances of coaches, managers, whatever, across sports bringing in like I don't know what word you want to use, like not psychics, but like psychics.
Yeah,
Like,
like people who just like have a sense of like what's gonna happen or something like
yeah,
that.
gurus. Like I've definitely heard of teams like bringing in people who, like, they're like burning sage in the locker room and,
Yeah, so it's a real thing.
cleansing. Yeah, and doing like group meditations and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm down for this team getting holistic. Let's burn some incense. Let's smoke some hookah.
Come together and then
Yeah.
be like, all right, here we go. We're
Peace
gonna
and
wish
love. Yeah, I'm down for
we're
that.
gonna wish like good juju on all of us, and we're gonna just change things.
There we
I
go.
mean, I think, yeah. I mean, I'm hoping for another win tonight because, first of all, just winning another game would be nice. Like winning a back to back game, like and actually winning a series, that would be nice as
That'd
well.
be
Like
cool.
sweeping a series, even though the two games are not as much of really like
Who
a
cares?
sweep, but like I'm going to call it that in this case because I haven't been able to say that yet this year. And just being able to win a series would be a nice thing for one, and for two, I feel like it could be, a good kind of step in the right direction in terms of, okay, like we just beat the defending champions. Let's go and keep moving here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will absolutely be throwing the term sweep around. You kidding me? I mean, we haven't been able to say we've won a series
That's what I mean.
in how long? I mean, even the last time this team won back-to-back games, it was in a 4-game
Yeah,
series. So you,
exactly. We didn't even
you
win the
couldn't
series.
even say that you won that series.
Oh, brutal.
It's been
Brutal.
so brutal. So yeah, I'll be busting out the brooms tonight if they get that win.
I
Which
like that.
I would tell you, I love them tonight against those old Braves. I really do.
I do too. I actually feel pretty good about this game.
Yeah, I here, let me get here, let me share this with you. I was looking at, this is from this past week. Ian Anderson, the Braves pitcher for tonight, 8.22 ERA at home. He's rocking a 4.01 for the year, but 8.22 at home.
There's no excuse to not hit off this guy. There really isn't.
Yeah, it would be great if this offense could have back-to-back days getting at it. That would be quite the confidence boost.
Yeah, and maybe even like seeing some of these other guys, like outside of the big three that we talked about, being able to really start to find their stride and wake up offensively, because then I feel like that could be huge for momentum purposes going forward. And I think, this could be the game where hopefully some of those guys start to turn things around too. So there's no excuse not to hit this guy at all.
Yeah, no, you should crush this guy, and then you have an off day, and then you go to Dallas. That sounds great. That sounds lovely. You're getting some warm weather, you're getting some sun, some vitamin D, you're getting some wins, you're getting an off day.
Sweep.
Coming off a series sweep, you're out on the road with an off day with the boys. I mean, what more do you want? I think that's a recipe for turning the season around. Talked myself into it, Gabby.
See, this is what happens. This is what we do on the show. We just talk people into things, and that typically happens. So maybe the team will hear us, and this is when the turnaround starts. But hopefully, we'll be able to relive this conversation and be like, yeah, we were the ones that called that. Like we said it was going to happen, and it happened. So it was definitely a pleasure having you on the show with me. Really good conversation as always, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in. Just definitely let everybody know where they can find you on social media and all of that before we close this out.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Joey Copponi, Copponi. And you can find Inside the Monster wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can find it on Twitter at ITM_pod. I don't know what our Instagram is. I think we have different ones. I think it's at Inside the Monster podcast. Who knows? If you type in Inside the Monster, it's all out there. It's there. But yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on very much, Gabby. This was a great time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely appreciate it. Tell Steve I said hello as well.
Definitely.
Always nice to chat with him as well. But definitely would have you on again soon for sure. Hopefully the season starts to turn around and we can have a more fun conversation about things they are doing right instead of things they're doing wrong, and go from there. But everyone else, hope you have a fantastic rest of your night. Go Sox, and have a great rest of your week. I will catch you all next time.